And so I'm trying to position myself to get as much tax-free income as possible. And I think people should do that. And I talk about that in Paychecks and Playchecks. I talk about the importance of having a plan for long-term care. I talk about the importance of using life insurance to transfer wealth. And so they're just simple concepts that people can use to improve their own retirement portfolios.
You know who made it.
Welcome back to the Wealth Eazy Show, where we talk all things wealth, health, and real estate. Today, my guest is an author of 5 books, a speaker, an economist. He's considered by many to be the retirement income expert. He was a former senior executive at New York Life, a retired lieutenant colonel, and he has delivered over 5,000 seminars helping baby boomers to retire the optimal way. He has graciously taken his time to be on the show today while vacationing in Barbados. Please welcome to the show my friend, Tom Hegna. Tom, welcome.
Hey, thank you, John. Great to be with you.
Thank you for taking the time. I know you're in Barbados, you're on vacation, so I really appreciate this time. I know you said the internet is a little choppy, so we'll do the best we can with what we have, but I really do appreciate, you're on vacation and it's time with your family, but taking the time to be on the show today, because I really wanted to get in touch with you and have a chat, because you are known to be considered by many as the retirement income expert. And I'm just curious, how did you develop and specialize your focus in this career to be known as the income retirement expert?
Well, what happened was when I was at New York Life was probably about 10 years ahead of the rest of the industry and focusing on retirement income. And at the time, their advisors were selling variable annuities, which are sexy. It could be in the stock market. They had a guarantee of no principal loss over a 10-year period of time. So even if the market crashed, you wouldn't lose money. That was sexy. We could sell the heck out of that. Well, all of a sudden, they wanted to shift to retirement income. Well, retirement income's kind of boring. You're talking SPIA, single premium immediate annuity, or deferred income annuity. And how do you get an entire field force to shift gears and focus on something boring away from something that's sexy and fun? So I really had to dig in. I had to read white papers of the leading PhDs, and most people don't read white papers, but I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about mortality credits, which are a key part of an income annuity. And then if you retire and you do not have any of these mortality credits in your portfolio, you're going to have a suboptimal retirement. It's not going to mean that you're going to fail, but it's going to mean it's less than what it otherwise could or what it should be. So when I got all this information, I put it in the form of books. And I wrote, my first book was Paychecks and Playchecks. And then I did a Paychecks and Playchecks for Canada, for Canadians. And then I did a PBS TV special, Don't Worry, Retire Happy. That was another book. And of course, then I wrote Don't Worry, Retire Happy for Canadians. So those books are out there. But again, these aren't my opinions. This is really the research, the math and science behind an optimal retirement.
I like the fact that you focus on retirement income, because I think the differential word of income and accumulation are very different. And I believe that in today's traditional advice, and I know because I came from that of 17 years of talking about accumulate, save, no one focuses on building retirement income. And I think that's the key differential right there, because I think, we talk about, getting up, if you want to climb Mount Everest, is getting up the mountain. I mean, what's more important, or what's the safest way, is going up or coming off that mountain, and more people die coming down the mountain. So it's like, you get up this mountain, you save, but how do you come off that retirement mountain safely? And I love what you talk about, and you're so focused on building income, and there's not many people doing that. Why aren't people focused on the income aspect and they're more focused on the accumulation?
Well, because if you think about it, baby boomers, they've been accumulating their entire life. And when that's what you've been doing your entire life, you kind of think that's the way it's going to keep working. But when you retire, all the rules change. When you're saving, dollar cost averaging makes sense. You put the same amount of money every time. And if the market's low, you buy more. If the market's high, your account's worth more. You don't buy as much. But in retirement, that's called dollar cost ravaging. It can wipe you out, because if you're taking money out of a falling market, that's how you run out of money. There was a great white paper that just came out from Dr. Michael Finke, Dr. David Blanchett, as part of the Alliance for Lifetime Income. And so if you Google Alliance for Lifetime Income, Finke, Blanchett, you'll find this article. And it was all about the importance of having guaranteed income in your portfolio, that it gives you the license to spend. And what they found is that the richer somebody is, the less of their own money that they ever spend in retirement. And so this isn't just for, the average person. And this is for anybody, that people should have 20 to 40% of their retirement portfolio in some type of retirement income. And I love real estate. I'm not against real estate, but real estate doesn't count as guaranteed lifetime income. It can be an additional source of income. I've even said I support 1% of a portfolio in Bitcoin. People thought I was hacked because I'm the safe money guy. I'm the guaranteed guy. But there's a place for things like that, but in the right place, in the right amount. And so what I focus on is how to retire the optimal way. How can you get the most for the least? And that's what I write about and talk about.
So when you started in the business, you've been in the business a long time now. What have you seen in the retirement landscape? Like, since you first started, and you're talking back then, like, no one was really tired talking about retirement income. They were talking about save and, do your 401ks and try and get that big company match. But now that landscape has changed. What have you seen since you started in the business to the advice that's being given today?
Well, I'm happy that there are a lot more people talking about retirement income. Being 15 years ago, I was about the only guy out there talking. Maybe me and Moshe Malevsky were about the only two out there talking. Now you've got Dr. Wade Pfau, Dr. Michael Finke, Dr. David Blanchett. You've got the Alliance for Lifetime Income. You've got a lot more firepower behind the retirement income message. And I think I helped pave some of that by laying out all the research that's been done. I mean, this has been studied by Nobel Prize winning PhDs, Dr. Robert C. Merton, Dr. William Sharp. They've won Nobel Prizes, and they're saying this, Dr. Moshe Malevsky, Dr. Menachem Yari back in the 1960s, and then back in Dr. Menachem Yari, who did really the first real studies on this, said that if you didn't care about leaving money to people, you should put all your money into an income annuity, because that will give you the highest guaranteed income of any product in the world. Now, I don't support 100%, but 20 to 40% is what the experts say. I maybe have a little more than that, just because, here's the other thing, John. People who are good savers, they're not good spenders. I was a great saver. I saved 30% of my income my entire life. I was a great saver. My wife's a spender. I'm a saver. So how do you get somebody like me who save to start now actually spend? And what I found for me, for my own psychological, having guaranteed paychecks for the rest of my life, those are easy to spend because I'll never run out. And if I have assets, and this is what this latest study said, the people who have assets, they don't spend their money because they're scared. What if the market goes down? What if China goes into Taiwan? What if this happens? What if that happens? And they're always living this, what we call a just in case retirement. They don't touch their money. They don't touch their money. And I used to say to them, wait a minute. You told me when you retired, you're going to join the country club. You're going to buy a new boat. You're going to go see the world. Have you done that? Oh, man, haven't you seen the markets up and down? Bitcoin crash. They're making up all these, there's wars going on. And so they don't touch their money. They don't touch their money. They don't touch their money. Then they die. What happens to the money? Goes to kids. What do the kids do with it? They join the country club. They buy a new boat. They go see the world. And I'm just trying to get the baby boomers themselves to enjoy their wealth and go out there and enjoy yourself. I'm in Barbados. This is how I'm spending my money. For 30 years, John, I couldn't justify a country club membership because I was on the road 200 days a year. And as you know, there's a buy-in, there's minimum food and beverage, there's monthly dues. Yep. It made zero financial sense. Well, now I'm retired. I have 2 country club memberships. Okay, we went on a Panama Canal cruise. We went on a Mediterranean cruise for our 50th anniversary. We got done with a Caribbean cruise. Now we're in Barbados. We're going to leave soon for Portugal and the Canary Islands. So this is what retirement's all about. And when I have things like this that I can spend money on, and I got these guaranteed paychecks and playchecks coming in, that's what retirement's all about. It's about financial freedom and actually going out and enjoying your life.
Hey everyone, it's John. I just wanted to thank you for being here, and I would ask that you please subscribe to the show by just clicking the subscribe button right here. I'd really appreciate it. It helps grow the show so we can get even more successful guests on the program to help you. If you're already subscribed, a huge thank you. When you subscribe, you're going to get access to the program before anybody else does. So if you would, just click subscribe right here. Thanks so much. and welcome back to the Wealth Easy Show. You make a really good point because you talk about the optimal retirement. And I think what people are focused on, they're so focused on a retirement age, but retirement is not about age. Retirement is about lifestyle, right?
Right.
And people, you said it, you save, then they get to retirement and they don't want to spend because with this fear of running out. And with traditional advice, they tell you, well, you should only spend 4%. The safe withdrawal rate is 4% of your account. So
Right.
if you're accustomed to making $100,000 a year, you've been sacrificing, you've been saving, you've been living through scarcity. You get to that retirement age, and now you have $1 million in your account, and your advisor says, well, hang on a minute. You only get to spend 4% because of this fear of running out. So he instills this fear into you because of what's called sequence of rates of returns, right?
Right.
You know, yes, the market could go up, but in a down market, if you got $1 million and you're living on 4%, you got 40,000 a year. So now you've gone from 100,000 bucks a year, you're on 40,000 a year. The market drops 20% that year. You're at 800,000 and you got to live on 4%. You just took a huge pay cut and you're at 32,000. So this is where this scarcity mindset and this fear comes in.
Yeah.
Where I like what you teach and what I and you know our folks around us is we're talking about, don't focus on the retirement accumulation, focus on optimal retirement lifestyle, which is the income, build large retirement income. So I believe that although you should save for this lifestyle that you're going to get to, the journey along the way should be fun too, no?
Right. And that's where I did a cute little TikTok when I was in Europe. I said there's two types of people, spenders and savers. And I said, if you're a spender, you want to marry a saver. And if you're a saver, you want to marry a spender. Because if you're both spenders, oh man, you're going to party like it's 1999, but you're probably going to get divorced because you're going to get fights over money. If you're both savers, oh, you're going to have a lot of money, but you're going to live the most boring life. So I think it's best when there's a spender and a saver. You're balanced. You're responsible with your money, but you're going to have a little fun along the way.
I have a little joke that I say, you know, with dealing with a traditional financial advisor, he's gonna talk to you about save, then spend, reduce lifestyle, and pray you don't run out of money. Save, spend, reduce lifestyle, pray. That's not an optimal retirement strategy.
No. And everybody thinks retirement's about the stock market, about the real estate market. It's really not. It's really about two things. Number one, you want to have increasing income for the rest of your life. Why increasing? Because you got to keep up with inflation. And number two, it's risk management. What happens if the market crashes? What happens if you get sick? What happens if you need long-term care? What happens, if the market goes down and stays down for 10 years? How would that affect your, it's about risk management and having increasing income. And so that's really what I write and speak about.
So what are some of those products out there? I know you're a big annuity guy, and for my listeners, a lot of people are not very familiar with annuities. Annuities are really big in the U.S. They're not so big in Canada because there's not a lot of options for annuities. I mean, I love the fact that you guys got indexed, stock indexed annuities, and you can't lose money. There's certain annuities, there's a floor you can't lose, but you can it tracks the S&P 500. What are some of the financial tools that you are using yourself and that you've given advice to for clients that provides that income?
Yeah. So I don't sell any annuities and I don't sell life insurance. I don't sell any financial products, but I own 13 annuities. Okay. And I was fortunate enough to have 4 pensions as well. So I'm gonna have a lot of paychecks coming in, and I did that on purpose. And I scheduled them, staggered them. So some kick in at 60, some at 62, some at 65, some at 70, some at 70. So I did that to give me increasing income. I also have a big chunk of money in cash value life insurance. In fact, I've been moving more of my personal wealth to cash value life insurance. Because I just believe, and Canada's no different, but America and Canada have big financial problems, and they've spent way too much money, and that means taxes are going to have to go up, and I think they're going to have to go up in the U.S. a lot. And so I've been moving to places where I'm not going to be taxed. I converted all of my IRAs and 401ks to Roth, so those will be tax-free. All the money in my life insurance is tax-free. I do have an investment portfolio. And then I have a little bit, like I said, about 3-4 years ago, I put 1% of my portfolio in Bitcoin, and now that's a pretty big number. So, but I'm diversified. I own real estate.
Yeah.
I'm diversified, and that's the key. You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket, and that includes real estate, because there are some people who are so hung up on real estate they put all their money in real estate. That's wrong too.
Yep.
And I can tell you, I've met with a lot of people in their 80s. When you're in your 40s and 50s, real estate is cool. You get a tax deduction, you get this income, blah blah blah. Then you get to be 80. All the tax stuff is gone. You got tax bomb, tax bomb, tax bomb, tax bomb. Plus, do you really want to be maintaining houses when you're 80? And then they say, well, I got a property manager that does that. Oh, yeah. Who do you think they take advantage of? They take advantage of 85-year-olds that can't remember what they had for breakfast. So, real estate is fine in the right amount, in the right place. But I've just seen people go wacko to the point of craziness in real estate, too. And I don't think that's the right way to do it either.
You're right. And I don't think you should put all your eggs into one basket. I'm not a big fan of the stock market. However, I'm not opposed to the stock market. And when I say that, I'm opposed to people putting money in mutual funds for a number of reasons. One, high fees. Number two, the target of a fund manager, his optimal performance is to outperform the indices. But what people don't know is 87% of fund managers fail to outperform the indices.
Right.
So I say to people, listen, if you want to be in the stock market, that's fine. Buy an ETF that tracks the S&P 500. You pay 0.2%. You own the full indices, and you're owning something that the mutual fund manager that's charging you 2.6% to manage, 13% of them will outperform it, and that doesn't mean that they're going to do it in the following year. So if you're going to own the stock market, grab an ETF, own them all, right? Diversify. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of that. When it comes to annuities, explain for my listeners what an annuity is, because a lot of people, they've heard the word, they don't know what it means. Or what
well, and it's because there's different types of annuities. There's immediate and deferred annuities. Now, immediate annuities are the ones that are for income. So you have a single premium immediate annuity or a deferred income immediate annuity. A person simply puts a lump sum of money, let's say $100,000, and for a 65-year-old, they're probably going to be guaranteed somewhere between 6.5%, 7%, somewhere in that neighborhood for the rest of their life. And those checks will come in as long as they're breathing. Those checks are coming. Now, you can put guarantees on it. What happens if I die? Well, then I want the check to go to my wife, or I want it to go to my daughter, or I want them to get whatever it wasn't paid out to me. There's different guarantee options that you can get. A deferred income annuity is just, you say, I want that, but I don't want that for 5 more years or 10 more years. So you buy it in the future. And so now you're getting a much higher payout rate. You might get 10 or 12% guaranteed if you wait 5 or 6 or 7 years. So that's what those income annuities are. Then there's deferred annuities. Those annuities whose primary purpose is to grow. Now, they can be turned into income, but their primary purpose is to grow. There's several types. There's a fixed annuity. It's very similar to a certificate of deposit. It pays an interest rate, 4 or 5%, and every year it just grows, okay? But you don't pay taxes while it's growing. You only pay taxes when you take money out. Then there's a variable annuity where you can put your money into the market, into a family of like mutual funds. They're called separate accounts, but they're like mutual funds. Fidelity, Contra Fund, and all those are in there. And so you can be in the market, but the annuity has some guarantees. First of all, you don't pay tax while it's growing, only when you take money out. And you can put guarantees against loss, all right, over 10 years or whatever. Then there's some in between, the fixed indexed annuity, which is basically a fixed annuity, but the interest rate is tied to the performance of the S&P 500 or some other index. So you get some of the upside, but it's guaranteed never to lose money. And so that's pretty attractive to people who are in their 50s and 60s who want to make as much as they can make, but they don't want to lose what they've already got. And now there's even new things called registered index linked annuities. It's more like a variable annuity where you get the full upside of the market, but you can pick a buffer, 10% or 20%, that the insurance company will take the hit on the first 10 or 20%. And so there's so many different options. That's why I think people get confused. And that's why I think it's so important to work with a financial professional. I do not believe a person can on their own set up an optimal retirement. I don't believe it's possible. I use 2 financial advisors, okay? I mean, I know this stuff inside and out. And so, just because I know what I should do doesn't mean I know exactly which product, because as you know, there's hundreds of products out there and they change every 2 weeks, the rates or their indices or whatever. And so I need somebody to help me, guide me through that.
Yeah, and annuities in Canada. I mean, you wrote a book on um, Paychecks and Playchecks for U.S. and Canada. How do
Right.
annuities, which is annuities, is an insurance product you can only buy from an insurance company. How does annuities differ in Canada than the U.S.?
Well, I'm really surprised because Canada used annuities for many years, and they mainly the single premium immediate annuity, the type that just pays income, but they haven't added all the bells and whistles that we have down in America, and I just don't
Yeah,
understand why. Because it's a
I know.
huge market.
Yeah,
Canadians need guaranteed income just like Americans.
yeah.
Canadians have the same math and science as Americans. So and I've tried to work with a couple of the Canadian companies up there, and I just don't understand why they haven't developed similar products to what we have
Mhm.
down here, because they could help the Canadians just the same as they're helping Americans down here.
I agree, and I think if they did, I would be a big fan of it, and sell a lot more, especially to the younger generation. Guys in their 40s, maybe they might have left a company, they have a pension, they want to transfer the pension into something, and they'll either leave it or they'll put it into a self-directed, and they lose money on it. I mean, if they had products in Canada like they did in the U.S., I would be a big fan, and I'd be using a lot of it. Unfortunately, they don't. You're a speaker and you speak all over. I've heard you speak several times, and you've delivered over 5,000 seminars helping baby boomers and seniors retire. What does that what does that look like for you when you're talking to the baby boomers who are so been focused on maxing out their 401ks? What kind of advice or what kind of seminars are you giving to the baby boomers that are looking to retire in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, the seminar that I do the most of now is the Don't Worry, Retire Happy
Yeah.
seminar. That was the TV show that played in US, 80 million homes in the US and Canada. And that book's also available and as a Canadian version. And it's really 7 simple steps to having an optimal retirement. Step number one, you want to have a plan and you need to work with a financial professional. Step number two, you want to maximize your government benefits, whether that's Social Security in America or CPP and OAS up in Canada. Those are programs that, if people really studied them, if they spent the same amount of time they plan for a vacation as for their retirement, they would learn there's great strategies you can use to maximize your income from those. Number three, consider a hybrid retirement. That's what I'm doing. I'm about 70% retired, but
Mhm.
I'm still with you today. I still do big meetings and things. Step number four, you got to have a I'm on vacation. My mind is blown right now. You got to protect your savings from inflation, so you got to have
Yes.
increasing income, not just income. And then step number five, the importance of having guaranteed lifetime income. Step number six, got to have a plan for long-term care. That's the one thing most people forget about that
Mhm.
can wipe out their entire life's work. Step number seven, use your home equity wisely. There's many people have housing wealth, but their bank account is poor. There's ways to turn your housing wealth into income for you. And then I wrap it up with the most efficient way to pass wealth to your children, grandchildren, and charities is with life insurance. I say, don't leave your kids any money. You're not supposed to leave your kids any money. You're
Mhm.
supposed to spend all of your money. Leave them life insurance because you can do that for pennies on the dollar. And then I use me as an example. We have 4 kids. One day we're sitting around saying, hey, how much should we leave the kids? My wife said, I don't know. What do you think? I said, well, if we bought a $1 million second to die life insurance policy, name the 4 kids beneficiary. When we're gone, they're going to get $1 million tax free. That's 250,000 a piece tax free plus whatever's left over. I said, let's start there. So we bought a $1 million second to die life insurance policy, name the 4 kids beneficiary. Total cost of that policy was 150,000. So now think about that. For 15 cents on the dollar, we get to leave our kids $1 million tax free.
Yes.
And that gives us the license now to spend our money. There will be money left over. I know there will be, but we don't have to plan for money to be left over. We're going to try to spend as much of it as we can.
And that's I think that's a really good strategy, because a lot of the people that I meet with, my clients, they always want to leave some sort of a legacy behind. And I said, well, I understand the need to want and help your children, but who saved? Who sacrificed and saved this money? I did.
Right.
Well, who should get to spend it? You. You should get to spend it.
Yeah.
So if you want to leave something behind, how about we do that? Ask them the number they want to leave behind. They say it's $1 million, just like you said. For 15 cents on the dollar, you get to do that and transfer all that risk to the insurance company. And now you get to spend. It's like we said, you have that
Yeah.
license to spend all of it and then get it all replaced on death.
Yeah. And, I know there's going to be stuff left over, but we don't have to
Sure.
say, oh, gee, we should leave them. No, we've already got that taken care of. And, another great white paper, if somebody wants to look it up, is Ernst and Young. Now, Ernst and Young sells no financial products, but they wrote a white paper on the optimal retirement. You know what they found? They found you should have 30% of your money in cash value life insurance,
Wow.
30% of your retirement portfolio in income annuities, 40% in investments. And if you looked at my portfolio right now, I'd be pretty close to that. I might be a little higher on the annuities, a little higher on the life insurance, but that's an accounting firm. BlackRock has more money in the stock market than Fidelity, more money than Vanguard. They got $9 trillion in the stock market. They say you need to have annuities in your portfolio. You're going to have a 29% more spendable income if you add an annuity versus just having an investment portfolio. So these are people who are not tied to the insurance industry. They're not, people say, oh, well, you're in the insurance industry, so you say this stuff. Well, they're not. And they're saying the same stuff because it's based in math and science. It'd be like saying, oh, the sky is blue. Oh, yeah, well, you're a weatherman, so you would say that. Well, no, it is blue. And if you can go out there and look, so these are facts. They're not opinions. And I stand by these facts.
So here's a question. How is it that Ernst & Young, an accounting firm who doesn't sell any life insurance, says you should have 30% in an insurance product, cash value whole life insurance, and you got guys like self-acclaimed financial gurus Dave Ramsey, who says whole life insurance is a scam, never own it, buy term, and build your wealth in mutual funds?
Well, he's talking to the masses, and many times the M is silent. You always got to remember that with Dave Ramsey. So,
I just got that.
Sometimes, he doesn't give the best financial advice. I mean, he's good about getting out of debt, cutting up your credit card. He doesn't know anything about life insurance. He says only buy term life insurance. Well, that's stupid. I tell people, here's the ultimate truth about life insurance is this. The only policy that matters is the one that's enforced on the day that you die.
Absolutely.
Less than 2% of term policies are ever enforced on the day you die. Now, that doesn't mean term is bad, but it means term should never be your only policy. It's there for supplemental coverage, for extra coverage. When the kids are little, when the bills are high, when the paycheck is small, use term life insurance. But you need to get some permanent life insurance. And here's another reason why I have so much of my wealth in annuities and life insurance. It's in the state of Arizona where I live. That is 100% protected from creditors. Nobody can ever sue that away from me. You got to remember, I'm in front of hundreds of thousands of people. There's a wacko or two out there all the time. And if somebody tried to sue me, they're not going to get anything. They're going to get nada. And so that's important to me too. That's a part of protection. Asset protection is a part of your overall wealth protection. And so, in certain states, you get a lot of protection against creditors, and that's important for doctors, attorneys, people who could get sued need to know that because they can protect themselves from it.
So with the cash value whole life insurance, how will you utilize that as income when you're like, okay, I'm not going to travel anymore. I'm done being on the road. I just want to play golf. How are you going to utilize your cash value life insurance for as income?
I'm still actually getting some pretty good revenue from my business, but I know that it's going to start. It's already starting to come down a little because I'm not on the road 200 days a year. Like I was on the road 25 days this year. But as that dwindles, I can flip the switch any day that I want and have this income sent to me tax-free out of my life insurance policy. And, I put serious money in there. My premium was $226,000 a year. It was a 12 pay. And I did that for 12 years. So do the math. And all that money's in there plus more. So anytime I want, I just flip that switch and that income will be, sent to me tax-free, not reportable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your book, Paychecks and Playchecks, is in the top 1% of books ever sold. What key insights do you think you resonated most with readers?
I just think it's so simple. Like it's an easy read. This is not complicated stuff. And the research is clear too. And when you start looking at our country, the US is over 35 trillion in debt. I know Canada is in debt. And we have over 17,000 of unfunded, 217 trillion of unfunded obligation for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, government pensions, military pensions. Taxes are going to have to go up. And so I'm trying to position myself to get as much tax-free income as possible. And I think people should do that. And I talk about that in Paychecks and Playchecks. I talk about the importance of having a plan for long-term care. I talk about the importance of using life insurance to transfer wealth. And so they're just simple concepts that people can use to improve their own retirement portfolios.
With the upcoming election, you've got Vice President Kamala Harris, and I read that she has one of her economic tax policies is she's going to increase the corporate tax from 22% to 28%. But I think what's more scary is she wants to increase the capital gains from 20% to 44% and unrealized capital gains of 25%. Now, for people who don't know what unrealized capital gain is, if you own an investment, let's call it a mutual fund, and you have $50,000 that you bought, and that 50,000 has now become 100,000, and you haven't cashed it. It's just sitting there. You're going to pay 25% tax on the growth, that 50,000, whether you sold it or you didn't. That to me is extremely scary. What do you think if she becomes the next president of the United States and she does go through and implement these capital gains taxes and the 25% unrealized? What do you think this is going to do to people's retirement portfolios if they're not exercising optimal?
It would destroy the economy. I can't imagine that Congress would be stupid enough to pass that, because it would wipe it. I mean, think about it. In your example, somebody would have to come up with $12,500 out of their pocket and send it in. And then if it went back down to 50,000, they get the money back? No. If you lose the money, that's your problem. If you gain money, even though you haven't sold it, then that's the government's. No, it's so incredibly stupid. I mean, obviously she doesn't understand economics 101. I mean, because it would never work. It's never worked anywhere. So I just, I don't think it would ever get passed. If it did, she'd be thrown out real quick, because it would devastate the economy. We'd go to a Great Depression.
Well, I don't usually like to talk politics, but I hope she actually goes on the road and promotes this, because I think even the people on the left will go, fuck that. I'm not voting for her. No way.
Yeah.
But I think this really goes to show how bad the deficit is, that they have to come up with these schemes to raise tax. I mean, here in Canada, the Liberals introduced a carbon tax. It's been proven no amount of carbon tax is going to reduce the chances of the next flood or fire. It's a bullshit tax.
Right. Well, and the U.S. and Canada are some of the least polluters out there. It's China and India, and they're not going to follow the same rules as we are. We can do anything we want, but if they're trying to just put up 100 new coal factories or something, so some of this stuff. Look, what can we do about it? That's what I would like to say. What can we do about the climate? There's not much we can do about it. And so when they spend all these trillions of dollars, they're really wasting it. What I would like to see is somebody come in there, and like an Elon Musk could come in there and come up with new ways to raise money. Why raise taxes? Why not? The government owns hundreds of millions of acres of land. We could do something with that land. We could put Hilton hotels at the Grand Canyon. We could get revenue from other things. And I'm just saying that somebody out there should be smart enough to figure out the way that government, if it was run like a business,
yes,
we could have a multi-trillion-dollar income coming in if we just handled our assets properly, instead of acting like these politicians that don't do anything. I mean, it's crazy, but I think if we had some really smart people, maybe AI could help us, prompt AI, hey, tell us the smartest ways to get out of $35 trillion of debt and pay this $270 trillion that won't hurt poor people, won't hurt rich people. What's the optimal way of using all of our resources, and see what AI comes up with. I mean, we need new solutions, and we need some new people too, in politics. We just need some smart people, not people who just make up, lies.
Well, I think you need fresh ideas, and you're right. And
Yeah.
I'm not advocating that Trump's become the next president. What I would say, you need someone like him who has experience in running businesses. He knows how to negotiate. He knows how to deal. Yes, he might be cutthroat and ruthless, but I don't know any successful businessman who was never ruthless in one way or another to get what they want. But anyone who becomes the next leader of a country or free world, you need to have some business experience and run the country, like you said, like a business. Come up with other ways to create income instead of just tax. You can't continue to tax and tax and tax the nation and expect to have a thriving economy. It doesn't work.
Yeah. And the other thing is there's so many departments in the government that aren't there. You know, there was a buggy whip department. Well, that was important back in the 1800s and maybe early 1900s when there were horses. But if we still have a buggy whip department, that should be the first thing to go. I mean, there's countless examples like that. Things that were set up in the 20s and the 30s that have no role at all today. But the person was there, and then the new person was there, and government just keeps getting bigger. And that's why I think Elon Musk said in that interview, we need a government efficiency person that squeezes out all the waste, fraud, and abuse, and gets rid of all the unnecessary government. That would save us $1 trillion right there, I think. And then come up with new ways to drive revenue from the country. Run it like a business, not like, oh, we got to just tax everybody to death. We wouldn't have to if we had some smart people in there and figured out, like, we let people drill on our lands and we don't charge them. Let's charge them. I mean, come on, let's get our fair share too for the government. We shouldn't be giving away stuff for free. We should be charging for that, and that could drive revenue to help pay off all this stupid stuff that they spent money on.
A lot of wasteful spending going on in Congress.
And then get out of all the wars. I spent 22 years U.S. Army. I have a boy
Yes.
who's a first lieutenant. We just these are not helpful at all. And look at all the people dying. I mean, an entire generation of Ukrainians are dead. Almost an entire generation of Russians are dead. I mean, it's just stupid. For
Warren
what?
Yeah, Warren Buffett, he was interviewed and he said, I could solve the U.S. deficit in 5 minutes. He said, anyone who is in Congress, if you spend more than 5% of the GDP, you're not up for election next year. Watch how fast the debt gets reduced.
Yeah.
I think it's a fantastic, but that'll never pass because
Right.
they just love to spend money.
Yeah.
So what do you think
Yeah.
this is going to do, even in the future? Anybody who is holding money in 401ks and RSPs, clearly the tax is going up. Like, what do you think the biggest problem that people that are just socking away money into these locked in retirement plans, what's going to be their biggest problem when they retire?
The biggest problem is going to be taxes, and that's why I have converted. Look, this year I'm having to pay a ton of taxes because I converted a big IRA, but I bit the bullet because I think this is the lowest tax I'm going to see, and I think from here on out I pay even more. So I bit the bullet, and now that's going to be all tax free, and then my life insurance will be tax free. And so, I'm trying to position myself ahead of the big tax increases that are going to have. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. It's a math problem. We need a math party. We need a party that can actually add and subtract.
Are you a fan of 401ks where you're getting a company match?
I would say contribute to the match, but not beyond the match. I mean, the match is free money. If you put in 4%, they put in 4%. That's 100% return. I would do that. But then beyond the match, I would never put another penny into a 401k. I'd put it into a Roth 401k. I'd put it in a Roth IRA. I'd put it in cash value life insurance, but I would not put it in a tax deductible 401k because you're just adding to the tax nightmare that you're going to have in retirement.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And I had this discussion. I was at a golf tournament yesterday, and I had met this gentleman. He's a CPA, and I met this gentleman about a month ago, and I give him my book. And when I saw him, he says, hey, by the way, I read your book. I said, great. And I said, just give me your honest opinion. What'd you think of it? He says, well, he goes, I really enjoyed it, but I don't agree with everything that you say in there. I said, well, please do tell. This is just before the tournament. We're having some breakfast, and I'm just really curious what a CPA, what he's disagreeing with me on. And I knew right away what he's going to say. And I said, so what is it that you disagree? And he says, well, you talk about RSPs and you say that they shouldn't be for everyone. He goes, I would disagree there because I think they should be for some. I said, great. Who should this plan be for? And he talked about that if you have an executive that's earning a lot of money and he puts into this plan, he says you don't address the time value of money where the tax savings whatever grow to. And I said, I don't need to address the time value of money. I don't care how you splice this, because if whatever money he is putting into this plan, would you want to get taxed on a seed or taxed on a harvest? Because you're not saving anything. I said, you're missing the point. You are deferring. There's no, because he mentioned the word savings. I said, stop right there. This is a CPA. You don't save a penny. You're getting a deduction in that year. However, that deduction over time, you're going to pay more on it in the future. When I got finished on a 5 minutes with him on that, on the deferral, the tax calculation, I told him that he's better off putting that money into a cash value whole life insurance or even into a non-registered fund. He stopped, he thought about it, says, yeah, I guess I can see your point now. So this is a CPA who's been trained to think that contributing to these government plans are a good thing. But if you explain how taxation works, taxed on a seed or taxed on a harvest, nobody wants to get taxed on the full amount. And I said, what happens to this executive or anybody who's putting into a 401k or RSP plan where if they don't have a spouse, so when they die, I don't know what's like in the US, we have a spousal rollover. So if you're married and you pass away, then the plan, the RSP, gets automatically rolled over. There's no tax implications. However, on the death of that last person, it's fully taxable. And now that could be in the 50s, like in Canada, anything over 220,000, you're taxed at 53.4%.
Yeah.
It's nuts. So now you're giving more of the lion's share back to the government. How is it in the US? Do you get the spousal rollovers too on a 401k?
Yeah. You can have a spousal rollover.
Okay. But on the death of that, that's fully taxable.
Yeah. The spouse gets to defer the tax, but yeah, then the kids, well, they have to pay it over 5 years or 10 years, but yeah, it's all taxable.
Yeah.
10 years, I think. Yeah.
So
they keep changing the tax laws, and now I'm mostly retired, so I don't always keep it. But here's another point. Ed Slott is a CPA. They call him, the world CPA and the country CPA. And he doesn't sell any life insurance either, but he is a huge life insurance advocate and says that, life insurance has the biggest tax break of any tax break in the U.S. tax code. And so, you got a CPA who's fully on board with cash value life insurance.
Yeah, and I had a great chance to chat with and meet Ed Slott in Nashville when you were there speaking.
Yeah.
A couple of months ago, which was a really, really great 2 days. You wrote the foreword to my book, Wealth Without Wall Street: Taking Back Control of Your Money in a Rigged Financial System. I'm very grateful for you doing that. And I'm sure you've read a lot of books, and you get a lot of people that probably ask you to write a foreword. I'm curious, what was it about my book that you wrote such a very detailed and inspiring foreword to my book?
Well, I thought your book is loaded with just common sense, and if you notice, common sense isn't very common anymore.
Yeah.
And so I'm always attracted to people who can communicate clearly, communicate wisely, and can back up what they say with facts. And that's what I would say is your books are rich with.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, you've written 5 books. What are all the names of your books so that my listeners can actually pick up your books? Because the ones that are listening in Canada, you did write a couple of books for Canada. So what are those ones that you wrote for Canada?
So I wrote for Canada. I wrote Paychecks and Playchecks: Retirement Solutions for Canadians. Don't Worry, Retire Happy: 7 Simple Steps for Canadians in Retirement. My latest book is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? This is good in both countries. This is for younger people. This was, I have 4 kids. And so what I decided to do was write a book on how to build wealth, how to become a millionaire and do it the right way. And so that's what that book's all about, is how to build wealth. And I show people how simple it is today in Canada and America to become a millionaire. And in fact, one of the controversial things I say, most people could become millionaires except for 2 simple things. Number 1, they spend way too much money on their cars. And number 2, they get divorced. So the moral of the story is drive a used car and stick with your first spouse. Now, I say that a little tongue in cheek, but I want to give you one example from the book. I just want to just to show you how much this. So I had a chance a few years ago to buy a brand new Ford F-150 pickup for $65,000. Or I could buy a 2-year-old pickup with 13,000 miles on it for $30,000. Ford F-150, leather seats, satellite, everything. Well, anybody who knows me knows I bought the used one for $30,000. Take the other $35,000. If I invest that at 6%, In 30 years, it'd be over 200,000. In 40 years, 40 years, it'd be almost 400,000. In 50 years, it'd be almost 700,000. If I got 8%, 382,000 in 30 years, 849,000 in 40 years, 1.8 million in 50 years. That's one vehicle.
Wow.
I'm married with 4 kids. I'm married with 4 kids. We probably have had, what, 16 to 22 vehicles? I don't know. I'd have to look at the insurance. Over 40 years, we probably had 20 vehicles. You multiply those numbers times 20, and you'll see that most Americans are driving their $1 million retirement down the road in that lifted pickup or that Lexus or that Tesla. Oh, I got to have the Tesla. There are many American couples who each have $1,000 a month car payments. That's ridiculous. That doesn't even include the insurance and the maintenance. I mean, these people have lost their minds, I think, because they will never be wealthy doing stupid stuff like that. Okay. You get wealthy by putting your money into appreciating assets. Most Americans are putting their money into depreciating assets: cars, boats, RVs, jet skis, clothes, handbags, shoes, iPads, iPhone. Those are all depreciating assets. Now, we all got to have some of that. But if that's where you're putting the most of your money, you're not going to get rich. You're not going to ever get rich. All right. You get rich by being smart, not by doing dumb things and putting money in depreciating assets.
Well, I think that's the one thing where Dave Ramsey gets it right. He says, you know, why do you have such a high car payment? He goes, buy used car, pay cash, and don't have a car payment. And
right.
I talk about in my book, the cost of buying a new car, driving it off the lot, losing automatic 20% versus buying a 3-year-old car. It's already lost 50% of its value in 3 years.
Yep.
And the cost of
that,
it's
still a great car. And it's still a great car. It's a beautiful car. Like I had my 2 pickup. Nobody knew it was 2 years old. It looked brand new, but I saved a bunch of money on it. And I think too many people are trying to look wealthy instead of becoming wealthy. I'm telling people, stop trying to look wealthy.
Yes.
Focus on becoming wealthy.
No, I agree with you 100% on that. What's been the most rewarding aspect of your work in speaking and helping people create this optimal retirement plan?
I mean, if you saw the emails, the notes, the things I get, I mean, I get thanked so much by so many advisors that say, Tom, you changed my whole life. I've helped my clients, and I've had their clients write me notes. So thank you for doing this. I would have never been able to do it without you. So, I mean, I get a lot of thank yous. And I don't do it for that. I'm trying to help as many people as I can. You know, like I say, I don't sell annuities. I don't sell life insurance. People don't want to buy them. It's not going to affect me at all, but it will affect them. And so I just put it out there and try to do the best for people. And if they like it, they like it. If they don't, they can do whatever they want. It's a free country. You're free to do whatever you want with your money. But I try to show you the right way to do it.
Exactly. If you could go back to your younger self, what advice would you give?
You know what? I don't really have regrets. I've always been a hard worker, and I would say keep working hard. You know, now I'm not the hard worker, but for 30 years, I was the hardest worker I knew. I didn't know anybody, not anybody who worked harder than me. I was the hardest worker. I wasn't the most handsome. I wasn't the smartest. I wasn't I couldn't run a 50-yard dash in, 6 seconds. I couldn't do any of that, but I could work hard, and I did. And I think for me, that was what differentiated me, is that I could outwork anybody. And so I could get the job done, and I learned a lot of that in the military: self-discipline, get the mission accomplished. You can't go to the colonel and say, well, sir, it rained and the got a flat tire and wasn't able to accomplish the mission. No, that's not the way the Army works. You get the mission done. You change that tire, you do whatever you got to do. You got to get that mission done. And so that was very helpful to me. But I wouldn't, I probably would have told myself, you didn't have to save as much as you did when you're younger. You could have had a little more fun along the way. I could have probably said that. But if that's the worst thing I've ever done, I'm trying to make up for it now and have as much fun as I can.
Yeah. Real quick, you spent many years in the Army. You were a lieutenant colonel. Is there anything that you learned in the Army that you would say that you now took to your teachings?
Oh, absolutely. People say, well, did you take speaker training? No, but I briefed a bunch of generals. And if you screw up in front of a general, you're going to get chewed up one side down the other. So you have to speak clearly, and you have to speak effectively, and you have to know your stuff. And if you don't know your stuff, they're going to eat you alive and spit you out, And so I learned how to be prepared. I learned how to have a backup plan. Always have a backup plan. I have a backup plan, two-way backup plan. It drives sometimes my family crazy, because I would say, hey, things are going to go wrong. That's just the way the world is. You got to have a backup plan. What if that doesn't work? What's going to work? and the self-discipline and the mission accomplishment, those are all things that I've taken with me. Um, you know, use the rule of five. When you give an order, you gotta give it so a 5-year-old understands, because you gotta understand some of these soldiers, they don't have college degrees. Some of them come from, small towns in Mississippi. They can barely read and write. So you have to give simple orders, or they won't understand it. Did he say take a right or take a left when we cross this bridge? You got to be clear. And so that's what I try to do with my speaking, is be very clear and keep it very simple. I think simple sells, and complicated confuses. That's what I think. And so I try to keep everything as simple as I can. I learned that in the Army too.
Well, I've heard you speak several times, and the one thing that I can say is you're very clear, you're very precise, and you're humorous. You get the audience engaged, and you get people laughing, and you make it fun in your presentations. So I think that's a great aspect and skill that you have that you probably learned from the Army. One more question. How many rounds of golf and cigars are you going to be smoking while you're in Barbados?
I didn't bring my clubs, but I did bring cigars. So I will. And I already had it. We stopped in Miami for one night, and we went to Little Havana. And I'm telling you, oh man, I wanted my wife to kind of have the flavor of Cuba or whatever. She got the full flavor. And there's cigar everywhere. So we had a nice cigar, and then we had a nice Cuban dinner at Olds. It's one of the oldest Cuban restaurants there in Little Havana. It was a lot of fun.
Good. Well, looking forward that we can smoke another cigar together soon.
Absolutely.
How can people find you?
I'm pretty easy, tomhegna.com. I have a bunch of free videos on YouTube. For financial advisors, I have online training and coaching at tomhegna.com. You can go to Tom Hegna On Demand, it's called. But that's pretty easy. If you Google me, it's pretty easy to find me.
Amazing. Tom, I know you're on vacation, and I've taken up some of your time, and I just want to say I really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing your expertise and your wisdom with my listeners. That's all for today, guys. I just want to let you know that Wealth Without Wall Street is out in chapters. It is in Amazon.ca, Amazon.com, and it's in Barnes & Noble. This is the kind of stuff that you will not learn in school. Like Tom said, it's very easy to understand. I explain things really simple. I really teach you the game of money, how to plug your financial leaks and be more efficient with your money. That's all for today. Take care of your wealth and your health.